is the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast. If you're looking to explore Sierra Leone and understand its culture and its people, you've come to the right place. On every show, you'll meet Sierra Leonean creatives and entrepreneurs overcoming challenges and beating the odds. They are artists, filmmakers, musicians, chefs, writers, storytellers, and designers leading Sierra Leone's orange economy, both at home and from the diaspora. I'm your host, Vickie Remoe, journalist, entrepreneur, and community builder on a mission to expand Sierra Leone's presence on the web. Hashtag Make Sierra Leone Famous. The other voice you'll hear on Make Sierra Leone Famous is sound engineer and producer Frank Bob McEwen at VRNC Marketing Company in Freetown, where this show is mixed and mastered. Now, make the show begin.
How many years has Furabe College been as this beacon that we call Athens? And even that, I question, what do you mean Athens of West Africa or of Africa? Where was Athens when Sierra Leone made the Nomoli, which is dated 19,000 years? Where was Athens? It was nowhere in existence. We had civilization here in West Africa when Athens was nowhere to be seen. And how could we be calling ourselves Athens of West Africa? That's part of the negating of who we are. No wonder we struggle so much. But let's leave that alone because we're aiming for Athens. No, I'd rather let us be the Kamakwe of West Africa. Let us be the Kenema. Let us be the Pujeon. Let us be the Kailan of Africa. We are just that simple.
Today on the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast, I'm continuing my conversation with Usifu Jalloh, the Sierra Leonean storyteller who took a quarter century to accept his gifts, his ori. If you haven't listened to part 1, you will definitely want to check that out. In the second half of our conversation, we're talking about Furabe College, the first Western-style institution of higher learning in sub-Saharan Africa built in Sierra Leone. Did the college rob Sierra Leoneans of their cultural identity? Should Sierra Leoneans be proud of ever having been the Athens of Africa? If the college's sole purpose was to turn its African students into servants of the British Empire. Let's hear what Usifu has to say.
I'm going to drop a bombshell here for you. I'm going to drop a really big bombshell. Sierra Leone has or had the worst deal in terms of the legacy of colonialism. Sierra Leone had the worst. And let me tell you where we pinpoint the starting of the worst. The starting of this worst legacy is in the institution or the building of the Furabe College University. That's where it started. The purpose of Furabe College was not to build a nation of Sierra Leone. It was to provide servants for the colonial administration. So they had to put something in place in order to retune our mindset to serve the colonial system, whether direct or indirectly. That's the purpose.
Yusufu, this is, first of all, I need you to take, when you say something like that, when you drop such a bombshell, you have to take a moment of silence. Yes, we need a moment of silence because what you just said is such a mind fuck, for lack of a better expression, that it requires like les brises blow, les brises passe, because you are indicting the Furabe College, which we have used from time immemorial as the beacon of our, like the beacon of national pride. I mean, how does Sierra Leone situate itself, right? How have we situated ourselves for the past 60 years? We always say we're the Athens of Africa, not something we do with shame or regret, but something that, like, we, even now that we're no longer kind of heralded for the academic prowess of Fourbe College, we still now, we look back on those early years of the Fourbe College and that colonizing mission with pride, and also with like regrets that we have lost it. So for you to come on my show, and for you to tell people that the problem with Sierra Leone was in the design and creation and like the mission of the Fourbe College. First of all, that it was created to make servants out of us. Usifu, this is like, I don't even know. There are people who are listening here who are just going to be like, turn off this show. Turn off the show. This is blasphemy. This is blasphemy to the highest order. My God, but you are so right. And my brain all of a sudden is like, this is terrible. But yeah, I'm not be one cut you one. I just wanted to situate it in like what's going on in my mind right now. You just like ruined my whole brain.
Because Vickie, one thing we got to remember, I used the phrase earlier on. I said, I was like a dog trying to meow like a cat. That is the situation that we're in. We're dogs trying to meow like cats. Anybody, any Sierra Leonean who chooses, and I'm being very specific with my words here, any Sierra Leonean who chooses to be honest with themselves, we're going to ask ourselves a question. How many years has Fourbe College been as this beacon that we call Athens? And even that, I question, what do you mean Athens of West Africa or of Africa? Where was Athens when Sierra Leone made the Nomoli, which is dated 19,000 years? Where was Athens? It was nowhere in existence. We had civilization here in West Africa when Athens was nowhere to be seen. And how could we be calling ourselves Athens of West Africa? That's part of the negating of who we are. No wonder we struggle so much. But let's leave that alone because we're aiming for Athens. No, I'd rather let us be the Kamakwe of West Africa. Let us be the Kenema. Let us be the Pujeon. Let us be the Kailan of Africa. We are just that simple.
The Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast is made possible by .Blue. With its certified air freight service, .Blue is the easy and affordable way to ship to Salone from the US or from the US to Salone. No need to wait till someone is going home. .Blue will deliver your next package to Sierra Leone in 15 days or less. To ship with .Blue, contact us on WhatsApp on +1 240 460 2056 or +232 88 313 330. In Sierra Leone, you can find our office at 17A Wallace Johnson Street in Freetown. Fly and go with .Blue. We go deliver for you. DOTBLEU.com.
Now, let me take it a little bit further. The more we go there, we need to look at the results because they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? If I may use the English phrase there. Let us look at the results. What have we produced? With all this academics, with all this education, what have we produced? We cannot sit back and not face this korokoro one and say what really we have produced is, okay, Vickie, I'm developing something which I'm going to share it on your show here because you asked me what are we doing and what have I done or what am I doing? There's something which I call the Pepe principle. The Pepe principle is simply that is so, please forgive me, but I need to explain this so that we get it well. Please allow me. So Vickie, you and I, we have a child. Our child is Bobo Manso Jalloh. So Bobo Manso Jalloh, a teacher comes and says, we have to take this child to school. This child must be educated. Only when this child gets an education, this child will become better in her life. You and I, we believe that. We accept it. Mm-hmm. But you and I, Vickie, what we grow is pepper. We grow pepper. That's where we feed everything, you and I. So our child goes to school. What's the first languages the child encounter in school? That child encounters a foreign language, whether it is French or whether it is English, but it encounters a foreign language. All of a sudden, that child not only is now struggling, but that child is slowly even becoming demoralized. In the sense that in that school, whatever is being taught there has nothing to do with the pepper that you and I grow. So when that child comes home from primary schools and secondary school, and of course, university, all of that child's orientation now is becoming one that does not relate anymore to you and me. If I lie, let me nod in my sleep. Every single child, by the time they reach secondary school, where are they aiming to go? Their trajectory is to leave Sierra Leone and go abroad. Yep. Why is that? Because the orientation that teacher is giving the child in school, even that teacher that struggles to speak English language that you and I know, but the orientation is that you must go abroad to get better. Okay, yeah. So what is happening is, Vickie, you and me and many others listening to your program have left Sierra Leone at early ages or whatever ages, but we go abroad. When we go abroad to whichever country we go to, Vickie, we pay taxes there. And we give birth to children there, talented children who give all of their talents to those countries and build the economies and so on. Meanwhile, this country that gave the primary education for that, we have become monkey walk, babu eat. So we work so hard to give this education to our children only for them to go abroad and hardly come back. Now, how does that affect the economy? Big time. Because you and I know when those children return back, when they do, if they do, they want to come with all the foreign goods to come. Nobody looks at Benny cake. Nobody wants to look at Resakara. None of them. We all want, forget about Mampama. That one is another level altogether. It's not even there. But we want to.
No, I totally hear
wait,
you.
Vickie, hold on, Vickie, please just hold on. I want to give the other side to this story. The other side to it is, again, our child. The teacher comes, takes that child, goes to class. When they go to the class, the teacher now takes the pepper that you and I grow, puts it on a map of Sierra Leone, and says, today, where do we grow pepper in Sierra Leone? That child is able to locate where pepper is grown across the country. But then, wait a minute, it does not grow in Zimi. Why? Oh, because the soil in Zimi, maybe it's sandy or whatever, it doesn't grow. Vickie, is that not geography we're studying? Let us leave that one. When you chew the pepper, it burns your mouth. Sometimes it gives you rombele. And when it does, is it not biology we're looking at? Well, we want 4 bushels of pepper this harvest. How many area of land do we need to get? How many pepper do we need to plant? How high would the pepper be before it starts producing pepper? Are we not in mathematics now? Let us leave that one. When is pepper very expensive? When is it cheap? What's the comparative price of pepper around? By the time we go, are we not in economics? Using pepper, when that child comes home, that child understands the value of pepper. We can use country clothes, we can use mango, we can use the games that we play, like the one I showed, the pompola. We can use all of those things to teach chemistry, you name it, all of it. Now, when that child goes to university, now we begin to look at a bigger picture now. When that child becomes a parliamentarian, that child will begin to advocate for a better provision for the pepper farmers and many others as well. When he becomes a lawyer, you will look to be producing laws, providing laws to protect the pepper because you can relate to it. This is the basic education that Europeans have given to themselves. how to look after yourself, how to live within. We are not living within because every sense of grandeur is from without. And if you don't live within, you will live without. That's the education system that we have. To do, when we talk of what we need to do, we need to begin to understand how we're going to switch this education system around bravely, boldly, deliberately to retune this. Until we do that, I don't care what kind of good intention minister comes to do stuff. We're not going to go nowhere. We're still going to be running and chasing our tails.
The radio broadcast of the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast on Radio Democracy 98.1 is made possible with a generous grant from the Asma James Foundation. The Asma James Foundation empowers women and girls with mentorship, scholarship, and life skills training. To make Sierra Leone better for girls and girls in Sierra Leone better, visit the Asma James Foundation at asma, that's ASMAA, james.com. And now, let's go back to the show.
Wow. I don't think that anyone who is listening to this sermon I don't think that anyone who would listen to this sermon, who is from Sierra Leone, who understands the economy, the history, and politics and everything, would be able to disagree that we are living definitely without. And the vision that you paint of a different kind of learning and approach to education that focuses on self-sufficiency, is definitely the stuff of great nations. You know, if you look at Singapore, if you look at China, if you look at the United States, these are all economies and cultures that have been built on, self-sufficiency. And
can I add one more thing? Can I add one more? Sure. Vickie, can I add one more thing? Mm-hmm. We also need to have a national story. If you ask Sierra Leoneans, what is it you're prepared to fight for, die for, live for, protect, defend as a Sierra Leonean? They'll find it very hard to answer. Now, that is not to say we do not have a story. What we have done, we've ignored this story. Again, like I said, the education orientation we've had has got us to deny that story and ignore it. I'll give an example, and there are many, but I'll give an example. We could take the Lamina Sanko story. Who is Lamina Sanko? What did he stand for? Who is Baibure? What did he stand for? Before I came to the program with you here, I was reading one of the British publications on Baibure. Now, by the way, we searched this. We went to the parliamentary archives for the Baibure records, and they've got pages written there of Baibure. And I'm thinking, my days, what a man. That he was imprisoned with Prempeh I of Ghana, the Ashanti king, who was exiled to the Seychelles Islands, together with Ya Asantua. These were revolutionaries. These were people who stood for the integrity of their people, who stood for self-determination. If Sierra Leoneans, if we're serious at all, we need to be looking at a Baibure story, what I call the spirit of Baibure, and begin to rally around that story like the Ashantis have done with the story of the golden stool of a man called Okomfo Anoche, who did this magic, or we call it magic, but a powerful medicine man who said, made such magic, and then the golden stool came down and landed on the lap of his best friend Prempeh I, who became the first king of the Ashanti people, who buried a sword in the ground and said, if anybody's to remove this sword, the whole of the Akan people will fall apart. And you and I know you're in Ghana. The sword is still there, buried in the ground. And it is a rally. It is something that the Akan people rally around, and it holds them together. So I asked for Sierra Leone, what's our national story? I given a classic. Man, there's so much I could.
It's a no. I think the value of a conversation with someone like you, or the value of this conversation to the audience, is more, not so much the answers, but the questions, right? The questions that you're asking, both in this engagement and the questions that your work asks people a question. And so if people can get to a place where they start engaging with identity and culture and heritage, where they start off with these questions of who am I, right? What is our story? What is my story? What's the country's story? What are the stories that matter the most? What are the values that the stories teach us? It can set anyone on a path of self-discovery that allows them to not just better understand themselves, but also to be at home with the community and connect with their heritage like you have. I know that over the holiday you had the National Storytelling Contest, or is it festival, I think. Is it a contest or a festival?
Well,
I feel like it's a contest.
No, well, there is a contest. There's a contest to it, definitely, but it's a festival.
Right, it's a festival. Okay, tell me how you're using that as a tool to build the kind of like ecosystem that we need to have in Sierra Leone to grow cultural arts, to preserve heritage, and also to get young people in a place where they're comfortable looking like a drummer, being a performer, and just like allowing themselves to be the kind of medium that performers like yourself can be?
What I usually tell these young people is simply this: the success or failure of every person, community, family, country, nation is entirely dependent on the narrative or the story that you conceive, that you perceive, that you believe, that you accept and eventually act upon. So I always encourage my young people with Patriotic Advocacy Network, the organization I work with. I always tell these young people, know your story. So now when we look at National Storytelling Festival, it is twofold in that, number one, the young people themselves, because they're all in secondary school, they have to look within themselves to find themselves, their own culture, and then they got to look without so that they see their community. So this year, for example, the theme this year was "My Health is My Wealth." That's the theme. So every year I'll put a theme to the festival. So they will tell stories in relation to this theme. So "My Health is My Wealth" for this year, I asked them to do 3 categories. The first category is to do storytelling with their own native languages. The next category is to do historical stories. Historical stories will be stories of people, places, or events. So why is Bo called Bo? Why is Kenema called Kenema? Why is Kailahun? Why is Magboruka called Magboruka? And there's stories there. And these are all history.
I know where why Bo is called Bo. I mean, that's the only one I do know.
Now this is a story for you. The king had a beautiful daughter. She was so beautiful, so gorgeous. Everybody wanted to marry her. I mean, they came in their 1s and their 2s and their 3s. Everybody, they says, "Oh, king, your daughter, she's so beautiful. Her eyes, her eyes, her eyes." And the king says, if anyone wants to marry my beautiful daughter, you must first walk in my farm. You must harvest all of my farm. And they said, oh, king, is that all? That is so easy. And the king says, all right, you must harvest my farm that is bigger than the whole of London. And they said, king, that is easy. And the king said, you must harvest it all in one day. And the king says, one day? Oh, king, that is not a problem. Harvest your farm in one day, easy peasy. And the king says, all right. But there was a problem, because in the king's farm, there were some very angry, upset, disgusting bees. And these bees, they said, no one will come and harvest in this farm here. If you do, we'll sting you until you swell up like an air balloon. Well, they came, and the first one to come to the king's palace was Hippopotamus. And Hippopotamus says, oh, king, he says, I'm here for your daughter. And the king says, really? He says, yeah. And the king, he gave Hippopotamus a gudaba, a big hole. And Hippopotamus, he took the gudaba, he went straight off to the farm, and he started. Na good dipping, gudabaging, good dipping. Na good dipping, gudabaging, good dipping. And as he started, out came the angry bees. Na konke panka, na konde Maria bakparao na oyoya keyanke yambono keya, oyoya keyanke yambono keya, oyoya keyanke yambono keya, wayai keyanke yambono wayala keyanke yambono keya.
That was Usifu Jalloh telling a story about the tortoise and the princess. And now, let's head back to the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast.
Why Bo is called Bo. I mean, that's the
Yes.
only one I do know. It's the only one. Oh, I know that one, and I know Freetown. That's those are the only ones I do know. But I remember when I found out why Bo was called Bo, I thought it was like just such a beautiful, and I told it actually on my show, you know, like this idea, I think it's like this idea of an elephant and the warrior kills the elephant, and the people gather and they start sharing the pieces of meat of the elephant, and you know the bende for this is for you or this is yours is bolor, and so like you know people start, and I'm just like, this is such a good story, right? and I just thought it was amazing because when you do go to Bo, actually, I do feel like, you know, like in the US, they talk about Southern hospitality. When every time I've gone to Bo, I've always felt that feeling of these people are very hospitable people. It's like Bo was the first place I visited outside of Freetown when I first returned after having been away as a kid. And it's the first place we visited. I remember my mom went to like a funeral. Someone had a funeral in Bo and we went. And I was hosted, you know, like when you're a young person, you can side, then go find other young person at the area for say, this person don't can do and for take around hospitality every time we go to Bo, hospitality. So I definitely feel like that spirit in that founding story of Bo, to me, still resonates there. And I think it's a really great and powerful thing to know, because it matters. Like having that kind of knowledge, it just centers you, right? And creates a feeling of belonging. But yes, thank you for making me go on that tangent. But yes, I think that's great to have that as a part of the festival, the storytelling festival for the young people.
But you see, what it also did, Vickie, for the young people, is that for the first time, they engaged in research. They engaged in talking to their elders and finding out these stories. That is a wonderful thing which we're missing, intergenerational relationships, where we're passing on the oral history to the younger ones. So the festival created that for them. And I've always said one of the ethos driving this festival is that it's about nation building. It's about building a younger generation coming up into the future where the ones in the Limba understand what's happening in the Kuranko, what's happening in the Yalonka,
Yes.
and what's happening in the Gizi, and so on. That's the kind of ethos. So a girl came, we were at St. Edward's doing the semifinals. A girl came and spoke a language. Every one of us who did not know what that language is, and it was the majority of us sitting at St. Edward's Secondary School that day, we were all lost. What language is this?
What language was it?
And he told us, Shabro. The language was Shabro. She spoke Shabro so eloquently, Vickie. So
But we had never
eloquently.
heard it, right? Wow, that's amazing.
How many people have heard Yalonka spoken?
Not me.
You see what I'm saying? So what National Storytelling Festival is about bringing these together and challenge the young people to do their research, but also to take pride as they speak their language. One girl in Kenema, when we went to do the preliminaries in Kenema, this girl came and spoke in Madingo. Oh, my days. This girl was full of pride in speaking her language. Dark, beautiful complexion. She spoke and performed so well. Even though her school did not win, but I chose her as a special appearance performance. And she came and performed at the City Hall. The pride to leave Kenema, for the first time to leave Kenema to come to Freetown, because we took them from Kenema, we took them from Bo and Panguma to come to Freetown to come and perform with the other schools in Freetown. This is what we should be doing.
Incredible.
This is what we should be doing, bringing these children together. So with that one swoop, we can wipe out so many of the nonsense that the older generation has unfortunately left with us. And we've got to begin to do something. And for me, I see it all in storytelling.
We will be right back after this short message from our brand partner, the Dollhouse Boutique. The Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast is supported by the Dollhouse Boutique, an American household brand for one-of-a-kind fashion and bespoke creations. Find your next stylish look at shopdollhouseboutique.com. We have stores in Baltimore, Maryland, and Los Angeles, California, showing the best of local designers. Our first international fashion boutique opens in Sierra Leone in 2022. Until then, find us on Instagram at Dollhouse MT Vernon. That's Dollhouse MT Vernon. And now, make we go back to the show.
Wow. This is so, it's like, you're too much. You're just too much. It's like, you know, when you have, when you have a tap and you open the tap and you have a bucket, but you need more water, but your bucket only has so much capacity. So it's like, it's not enough. It's not enough. Like, you're too much, but you're too much. Really, what I'm trying to say is that, like, we are not enough. Like, the show is not enough. The time is not enough for us to really be able to collect what we need to collect and gather what we need to gather from your wisdom and your just like your leadership. Because it takes so much. I understand why it took you 25 years. It's like, it takes so much unlearning, to be able to arrive at a place where, you know, ronco, cowrie shell, and things that are ostentatiously African are not things that make you feel shame, are not things that make you feel like, oh, well, I don't want people to see me this way. And even for myself, and I think for me, I mean, like right now I wear cowrie shell around my ankle. 10 years ago,
And your
I would
ear.
never have,
And your ear.
and my,
And your
yes,
ear.
I took it off though. I took
Show
it
it.
off.
Come on, show off. Show off.
I took it off. But, and I have it in my studio.
Vickie, hold on. I want to show you this because this is what we're doing. Since I started National Storytelling Festival, I talk to the young people about creativity. I challenge them to be productive. I challenge them that they need to be able to use the culture to make money. What myself and my friend we call culturepreneurship. This was made by one of the boys in the organization I work with, the Patriotic Advocacy Network.
Yeah, I can see the cowrie shells on the slippers. Yeah.
You see, he made all this sandal, literally made the full complete sandal by hand. Now, I cannot begin to tell you the talents that the young people have. He made this and and he's selling them. So he's made a couple of pairs for me. And I know it's not like your show is not about advertising, but it's about motivating for me to say, look at what a young person is doing here. Now, I asked him, I said, what do you need? He says he just needs the more complex kind of machinery to get these things done. This is a young man whose brother kicked him out of the house because he's following his artistic passion. This is a young man whose parents have, him because he's following his talent. But look at what he's creating. Isn't this what we're going to buy sandals all over the whole place? Isn't this what will create employment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I was going to say that it takes such a long time and so much work to unlearn the indoctrination that says you are not good enough. Your culture is not good enough. Your customs are backward. You are uncivilized. These things are too loud. They're too colorful. They're not nice. To change even your aesthetic, it's so hard to unlearn. And it's for some of us, and it's a daily practice, right? It's a daily practice because it's not like we've now arrived in some Afrofuturistic utopia where everything African is valued and everything, but we still have to constantly, fight this fight. And I'm just saying, even for me, it's something that I have to be intentional about, right? And I know that the me of a decade ago would look at some of the things I do now and just be like, isn't that a little too much? We already know you're African. We don't need to see it everywhere. What is this? All see Africa, 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 but when your entire culture has been so desecrated and your entire civilization and everything about you has been so downtrodden, the only way to come back is to come back with vengeance. You have to come back with aggression. So my life is now at the point where I'm I am aggressively African. I am aggressively Sierra Leonean. It's not peaceful. No. I'm not peaceful. It's not peace. When I enter the place, I will aggress you with my Sierra Leoneanness. I will be loud. I will be colorful. I will have my jege on my. I even have Sierra Leoneans see photos of me with cowrie shells, and they're they'll comment on Facebook and say something that's no more you get your food now you need for pool, because to them this is still. Yeah, this is some kind of evil symbol, because that's the level of indoctrination. It's deep. Wow. So I'm saying all of this to say that I know that just because of your existence, and even though it took you such a long journey, where you are now and being a symbol of cultural preservation and just a symbol of the culture, people can point to you in the way that you may not have had to point to others because their glory had passed and their values and everything they did wasn't captured, but you're there now. And thankfully this is an age where it's online, right? So somebody can go and watch your videos of you talking to children about how you explain why you're Black, which I found on YouTube, and I thought it was so tender and beautiful. And just they have that access. And now you're doing the culture festival, you do Mabina Fest, and you do the National Storytelling Festival, all of these things. And yes, every time I do turn on Facebook and you're there, this is why I love Sierra Leone. I'm like, yes, thank you. I'm so happy that you exist, because we need that point of reference. We need kids and young people growing up today, and even adults. Adults need to see you, because there are lots of adults now who are stuck in becoming, because they also had to reject themselves and they've never been taught how to love themselves. And so thank you so much, Usifu, for coming on this show. I feel like you and I could have a whole series, just the two of us.
We should.
Just the two of us, because the talk not go done. The talk not go done. But I really value your contributions. Your everyday contributions, both big and small. And I just think that you're such a force. Now, there's a segment.
Like what you hear? Don't forget to leave us a review. Your reviews make it easier for others to find this podcast. Don't forget to share it with your friends and family.
The show that we call On the Six, where I get to ask you 6 questions, and they're basically like fire fast questions. And the goal, you have 6 seconds to open your mouth and speak, because I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. So this is On the Six with Usifu Jalloh. Okay. What's your favorite Sierra Leonean parable or expression?
Know yourself not to cause na good advice.
Okay. What was the plot of the last movie you watched in 2 sentences?
Oh Lord, I have to think about this. Because I movies so much. If you talk to me about boxing and so on. But,
okay, what was the last boxing match you watched?
The last boxing match was Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Now I'm a boxing fan. I used to box.
That was such a painful one. Woo, that was painful. That was painful. It was like, I feel like the whole continent, we just wanted him to win so bad, so bad. Oh, but God did not allow. He said, not this time. Okay, what song have you been playing on repeat most recently?
I found a love for me. Darling, to die right in.
I know that's right. Okay. Okay. This way. All right. And then what is one thing you've been meaning to do that you still haven't done?
It's to build my cultural village. That is the one thing I have not done it, and I'm about to start it.
Awesome. And when you want to quit, when you want to give up, what keeps you going?
What keeps me going is I've burnt all my ship. There ain't no swimming back. It's either I sink or I swim. That's it.
It's just forward. Forward is the only option. Forward. Okay, and then last and final question. Who is one Sierra Leonean, dead or alive, who inspires you?
John Akka. John Akka inspires me.
Fantastic.
There's of course others always, but I say John
comes
Akka.
with no. Yeah, of course, it's a very, very good choice. And for those who don't know, John Akka is the founder of the National Dance Troupe, and he also creates, I think he co-wrote the national anthem, did he not?
Yep, the national anthem, yes. I think it's either because I think there's two, one wrote and then the other one created the melody.
One did the music, and then one did the lyrics, and I think the other person was Clifford Nelson File, correct?
Yes. It's interesting because John Akka's office, that now no longer. I don't know whether the Monument and Relics Commissions, whether they took photos of the building or whatever they've done. But sadly, that office was knocked down, and the whole of where the National Dance Troupe was, where this man left, is now being knocked out, and God knows what else is being built there.
Yeah, they're
And
building
it's sad, but
I've been really, one of, I think, the saddest or the great travesties of the past administration against culture was, the National Dance Troupe didn't already have much really by way of infrastructure or support, but for them to take their space and give it to a developer, it's really, that really was a sad thing and a great loss. And anyways, now, thank you so very much, Usifu, for coming on the show. It has been such a treat talking to you. We look forward to finally, getting an opportunity to see you live. I look forward to it, at least, inshallah. Inshallah. I don't say before this year they done. Inshallah, it will be. But thank you so much
for
coming.
Share something. I want to share just one final thing, which is about, my next thing. I'm looking to start the, as I said, it's a cultural village. And the idea is for people to be able to come and enjoy and experience Sierra Leonean culture as authentic as we can get it. And I'm looking to start that very soon. In fact, tomorrow I'm traveling to go back to my village. I've got the land, and I'm going to start the project very soon. And so what I'm going to be doing is looking out for
what can we do as the audience or the community to support that?
Yeah, I think, yes, what I am going to be putting out very soon is anybody who has an interest in I use the word investing, but it's quote unquote here, meaning that if you want to help the community, build a hut that people can come and stay and enjoy the environment, enjoy the culture that we'll present to you. You can contribute. We'll get a hut built for you with your name on it. You can come there anytime to stay for free.
Wow, that's fabulous.
Like I said, I've got the land. So what I'm going to be looking for very soon are people who would have the money, who would like to say, build this for me. Every time I come to Sierra Leone, I'll come and stay in this hut. But it's also a way to stimulate the local economy so that the food that is grown there could be consumed by people who come to visit. We could employ people there, those who are tapping palm wine, those who will take you to the river, because it's literally by the Little Skiasis River. So there's so much.
I've been there.
Right.
I've been to the Little Skiasis. I can pull off. Not everybody can say they've been to Little Skiasis, Kaba River. Not everybody can say
Kaba River.
We're not many. So when you've been there, these are the things you pop your collar to. I have been to the Little Skiasis. I've gone down the Little Skiasis. I am people. When they are talking about people, it is us. They are talking about people who travel. We travel. We are travelers. Thank you so much for coming to Make Sierra Leone.
Thank you for listening to the Make Sierra Leone Famous podcast. Until next time, ta-ta!